So idea number 8 of 12. So the ego funnel length correlation. What that does mean? So normally no one gets married in the first date. So I see a lot of people, except in Vegas. If you've been in Vegas, you see people drunk doing all kind of shit. But what happens though is a lot of funnels, they drive traffic, you didn't buy, you say, oh, he wasn't interested. And that's a mistake. Like normal purchasing is not that way, especially online, especially for weird stuff. You guys are having products that are a little bit more innovative, or sales cycles that are a little bit more innovative, and you need to date a little bit. And when I look at this is when I meet a founder that they have a short funnel, their ego normally, it's a lot bigger. They think their product is so good that people should buy in first contact. And that's not true. That's not how people buy. It doesn't matter if you're Brad Pitt or anything. You know, you just need to date people and to do that. How do I know that? This is my wife. This is my little kid Pedro, and this is Felipe. And it took me months of being in her inbox, let's call it. You know, she was dating another guy when I started my process. You know, but every once in a while I will go, let's go to a cinema, no, let's go to a comic show, no, let's go to a restaurant, no. And she wasn't ready to buy. And I also look like this, but that's another problem. But you know, she wasn't ready to buy until one time the guy mistreated her or something, and I was there in the inbox ready to take her for the first day. I was funny enough, smart enough, whatever. And people say I'm also a good lover, but that's another story. I'm kidding. But so I was, and then I got the purchase, right? So that's how things work. It's a little bit of a dating period. So if your funnel is very short and you're not giving people useful information, was I there in her inbox with the same ad, the same proposal, the same? No, I was changing it a little bit. I was funny, I was serious, I was, you know, I was trying to do all the things that someone that is trying to get a chick would do. But that's important that you understand that. And if you're a founder that is not insisting on your prospects, you already paid for the lead when they sign up. Why aren't you sending them more emails? Why aren't you retargeting them a little bit? So you need to insist. So basically, now let's turn these, when you're doing remarketing and all the campaigns, into something more like this, where I have webinars and ebooks and infographics and drip sequence and viral loops and trigger email. And if they go and my cart gets declined in the shopping cart, I call them up because they wanted to buy. And you know, and I accept offline payments, and I do social media and I engage with them. So now I have a funnel that is getting people from all these things, but I am also insisting enough, being funny, quirky, whatever is your brand attitude, or however you want to call it. But it's very important that you do this, because these impressions cost whatever they cost. We cannot do anything to lower this cost. It's a free market, and the guy who bids the most gets the impression. That's how internet advertising works. And if you're competing with me, and you have the little funnel, or even this funnel, and I'm doing all these things, I will outbid you and crush you. Because I'm just more persistent. And because I have more data, I can actually tweak this email, and I can actually tweak this viral loop, and I can actually tweak the webinar, and I can make them better also because I have more customers flowing through. So if you don't have enough volume, and enough volume in an e-commerce shop is different than in your guys' case, right? It's very different because, you know, it's a more niche product. But if you don't have the most volume and you're not the market leader, it's very hard to compete. So the insight is the shorter your funnel, the bigger your ego, right? And that's what's happening. So why do we need this? Because media buying is a bidding process. The one that can extract more value from the click will get the most clicks. And if I do all of this, maybe now I can advertise on television. I can open a new channel that I thought it was very expensive, but because now I'm insisting enough, then I can make it work. Make sense? Idea 9 of 12. Now that we have all this persistent machine chick getting system, we need to tweak most of these elements, and the copy we use, the words we use online, they matter a lot. Who does Facebook advertising here? Okay, so these are a couple of campaigns I set up for some of the companies I work with in Malaysia. And I was getting a click-through rate of 17%. Is it that good? Yeah? Normally it's 2%, 3%, whatever. It's great, right? So how did I do this? And it's not like it was only 3 clicks. It was 13,000 clicks. So it's quite a lot. So how did I do that? So I went and say, they were selling rings, engagement rings and wedding rings. And supposedly in Indonesia, you need to buy an engagement ring and then replace it with a wedding ring. So I started targeting guys. They are the ones that are buying the wedding rings, saying, pick your ring first before she picks an expensive one. That they were in a relationship for more than X years and were in these age brackets. And then I got this thing. Why? Because I mastered the art of being, in the shoes of my customer, the mind of my customer, and I know what the guys need to hear. And say, okay, which potential they will have, how proven they are. Is it just an idea, or I read in a conversion blog that this should, improve conversions? How important they are, and how easy it is to test in terms of resources. Sometimes you change a headline in a landing page or a button can double the conversion or multiply it by 50%. And when I was at Mindvalley, we did a test. We had add to cart buttons, and we were doing about 4 million revenue. And we changed everything to try now risk-free, and we almost doubled the conversions. We could be the same 60 guys working until long hours, blah, 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 making 5 million or 10 million just because of those words in that button. And and sometimes this is like a little thing like that. It could be the difference between your company making money or losing money, getting funding, not getting funding, being the best, being middle of the pack, whatever. So you rank all the ideas between how they are in potential, how proven they are, and you kind of value rank that, and then you go, make sure you have enough traffic before start testing. If you don't, then that's fine. Do sequential testing and say, for these 2 weeks, I'm going to test this way. And it's not very statistically significant, but at least you're learning something. And get ideas from proven funnels and experts. I love user onboard, for example. You can see, because when was the last time you signed up on Facebook? Like actually created a user? Probably 5 years ago, 7 years ago. I promise that shit changed. And even if it didn't change, you don't remember how it looked like, right? So you can, and Facebook has an amazing growth team and data scientists and all the the things you need to grow a company, so you can learn from them. Test the copy and the parts of the funnel, and then that's how you start testing. Get ideas from your data also. Where is the highest drop-off? Are people clicking in this button? What are they not understanding on this page? Okay, so 2 more ideas, and I think we will be. Are we okay? Is it? Yeah? Awesome. So the other thing is, especially when you are in this mode, people brag about percentages a lot. They go, my conversion rate is 150%. And you say, there's something wrong if it is 150%. But, my conversion rate is this percentage, and my retention is this percentage. And people brag a lot about percentage. What I learned, especially being a quite aggressive media buyer, is that you need to optimize for gross margin. What I mean by gross margin is how much money I spend in ads, how much money is left, to spend. And because what will happen is when you start applying these traffic strategies, your conversion rate will go down because you're starting from, I want to buy a movie ticket to, hey, why don't you get your husband to the cinema? So the conversion rate will drop. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, for me, a high conversion rate means you're not spending enough in traffic, in generally, that your company could be bigger. And what do you prefer? Do you prefer 10% of ROI of $1 million or 100% on ROI of $1? Well, if I put $1 and I get another $1, that's amazing. I double my money, and I get $2, I double my money. But I'd rather spend $1 million and I get 100 grand because with 100 grand I can live and pay salaries and whatever. With $1 I can't do anything. So a lot of people will say, oh, my ROI is 100%. I don't care. How much money are you spending? How much money are you netting in your pocket? So I used to say you cannot spend a percentage. You can only spend money. So if you're tracking only percentages, you're doing it wrong. Idea number 12, make sure you're tracking. And I'm going to give you a couple examples of what could have happened if I wasn't tracking that well. So you see, it's the highest traffic source, but it's not performing. So the founder told me this is because the site is not responsive. We need to turn off traffic. And I say, fine. So then I went to walk around in the street, and I started figuring out that people in Indonesia are actually quite poor. So I went and said, okay, how many people own a desktop and a mobile device? And they told me, not many. You either buy a desktop or you buy a mobile device. Because what's more useful, a mobile device, everyone got a mobile device. So what was happening is people were searching when they were going to work by train or bus or whatever for the Ring. And they were searching there, but they were afraid to buy from there. They wanted to buy from a desktop. So we were getting all the impressions here generating demand, but because they were changing device and the device, it wasn't even from their device. So it created a huge attribution problem because we wanted to kill this traffic source. And then we were making a shitload of money in desktop. So if you're not a kind of a Sherlock Holmes of the metrics, even if you're tracking them, you need to actually understand what's going on. I could have killed this business if I turn off mobile traffic. So this is something from my company. I track how much money our drip emails make. And this is something, wait a second. This is something you can know with analytics out of the box for free. Do you guys all have it set up that you have these metrics? Yes or no? That's a question. Yeah? Okay, awesome. That's good. So I have these emails, and then I figure out that the ones that were having the highest conversion rate were the ones, at the end of the funnel. So now I said, oh, what happens if I move them up? And then no traffic is created equal. A lot of people say, I want to pay $1 a lead or $1 an install, right? And that's your number.
What I pay.
Sorry?
That's what I pay.
Okay, $1 an install. But you know what? When I look at my checkout, Mexico's customers, they check out at 24%, at 7.79%, and US customers, they check out at 12.9%. 0.37%. That means I can spend twice as much for another country. So if you're not slicing and dicing the data, you are probably overspending in some countries and underspending in others. And some people don't do this. And it's not laziness or whatever, it's just they don't know that the differences are so big. When I look at, and this happens in cities also, you know, if I go Tucumán in Argentina, or I go Chaco in Argentina, it's 3%, and in Buenos Aires, in the capital city, it's 7%. So if I take it as a whole, I'm overspending in Chaco and underspending in Argentina, in Buenos Aires. So, and also, trust your own data. This is what happens in the checkout. But when I look at my back end, you know, my database, I go and I have this many sales on Ontraport, Office Autopilot, and I go, I convert 29% of the leads that come in the United States. That means I could pay up to $15 per lead and still make money. But when I look at Mexico, I only convert 3% of the leads, and then I shouldn't pay that much. But if you're not slicing and dicing your data, you will never find this out. And the problem is, if you don't make it easy for yourself to slice and dice the data, what happens? You don't do it. So that's why you need to have mixed panel analytics and all those tools actually properly set up, so it's very easy for you to run these queries. If it is not easy, you're not doing it. So some people say, oh, I don't want to put a chat because it's too much work and I need to hire another guy, blah, blah, blah. And I say, okay, try it for a week. When I try it for a week, the average guy that, you know, checkout was 6.44, and when people who actually chatted with my agent generated $12 or almost $12. Do I want to put a chat agent? Yeah, of course, it pays for itself if I put a chat agent. And some people, they don't run those experiments because they say, I need to hire another guy. Go to Elan, Upwork, Odesk, whatever, just outsource it for a week and see what happens. This can double your company. And I'm not saying it will double your company, but it can. And then I track what happens in my checkout pages. I know how many people went to the checkout, how many people enter an email at least, how many people enter their phone number, how many people put their credit card. Just make sure you know what's happening. We have recording software, so I know what's going on. Like you actually can see what people are doing in the checkout. I know in the Spanish market, some of them, they shake because they're afraid it's the first purchase online. I sell to, you know, people who buy meditation products and all that type of stuff. Sometimes it's their first purchase. They're actually anxious and not nervous. That's why putting a chat and talking to a human can help. And then be careful with these. Most of the analytics I look at, they have a direct traffic problem. They say, oh, a lot of people, who has a direct traffic problem, that they are getting transactions that they don't know where they're coming from. Well, that happens a lot, and that could be a blessing in disguise. Why? Because actually what happens to Amazon or to eBay or whatever is people go and type eBay or Amazon, and it's not very bad that happens. So what you need to do is, but that guy know about you or heard about you because you did something, unless you know telepathy or something like that, right? That guy heard about you because of an ad, email marketing, or whatever. So a lot of people sub-invest because they don't distribute these transactions into these channels. I think you should assign the profit from direct to, if you are tracking properly and direct is direct. If direct is whatever you forgot to tag and you don't have the links properly forwarded, then that's a problem. But if you are tagging everything and you still have direct, then distribute that profit in the other media channels, because if not, you're sub-investing. And I don't own Google you know, stock options or Facebook stock options. I'm not actually trying to get you to spend more money. I'm just trying to get your company bigger, and sometimes it happens that you're not spending enough. So to finish, let's compare again. This is the funnel that most of the startups have. We're trying to build something like that. Well, this is whatever. A couple other tricks, and I let you go to have lunch, I think it is. So I'm the only obstacle between you and lunch at 12 something. Okay, that's not a good position to be. Do you have 10 more minutes of attention?
Yeah.
Okay? Well, yeah, and then we do questions, yeah. How to beat Kasparov at chess? Basically, is every time he moves one, you move two. And that's the main idea of this program. If I give you speed, and because you learn all these things and you build this funnel, now you can test 2 times more quickly than your competitor because you're getting more traffic and more inbound flow, then it will be a lot better. You should build a growth team and let them do their job. Sometimes as CEO or whatever, we say, yeah, you do growth, but then you go, I don't like that landing page. Doesn't matter. They are trying to grow the company. And if you don't have a growth team, at least have growth days. You know, if you have a product that is already working, you should only be focusing on getting your company bigger, because when you get big enough, a lot of problems that you cannot solve at this scale, you can solve at another scale. Because now you can hire proper people, you have money, blah, blah, blah. So, if you're at growth stage, who has priority in resources? The growth guys. And I'm one of them, so sometimes it could sound that I'm beating my own drum, you know, like, oh, growth is better. But really, if you need to grow, they need to have the ability to push code and run experiments and whatever. Don't make it difficult for them. And then this, I'm going to tell you, keep the growth guys in check, because we will do anything to grow. And sometimes that could be illegal, for example. Or you end up with ads in a porn site. So just make sure, like, you can outsource growth and whatever, but just make sure they are not destroying your product or your reputation or whatever, because actually we tend to push the envelope. You know, it's the type of personality, like, it's like a sales guy, you know. The guy will do anything to get a sale, and that's fine. It's part of your profile as one of those guys. Just make sure they are not sacrificing long-term games for a short conversion rate. And do a lot of testing. Really, it matters. There's a 500 startup company that is called Ad Espresso. I use them, I love them. And they allow you to, you know, when I push Facebook ads, I push, you know, 5 headlines and 5 pictures and 5 text body copy, and the difference between the winning ad and the losing ad could be 10 times the cost. And they allow you to do all this testing automatically, and you can see, oh, what's going on here. You know, and when you look at, this was for a campaign that I was running for mobile installs, you know, I was getting, between one campaign, I was getting 2.6, this is less than $1 installs, and I was getting here almost $2 in installs, you know? And if I didn't run all these tests, and you can see, like, it was, in a matter of 1 or 2 weeks, we set up all these campaigns. So you actually need to be very fast and get the tools to be faster. And sometimes it's just a math problem. When you look at, for example, Box, their sales efficiency is 0.4. What it means is they spend $1 in the first year, they get only 40 cents. That's why they can grow that quickly, because they're willing to spend a lot more money. When you look at HubSpot, very successful company, I love what they do. 2013, they spent $11,000 to get one single customer. And you say, how did they grow so quickly? They spent a shitload of money. You know? If I was able to spend $1,000 to get a customer, you know, I will hire the army and go knock doors and say, hey, want to go be my customer? So they were willing to spend, you know, to recover their money in 2.4 years. Why? Because once you sign up for a CRM, the last thing you want to do on earth is change the CRM, right? So 2.4 years. So sometimes you're competing with guys like these. So you need to tell your investors, you know what? Look at this. The companies that were successful, they had a payback period of 2.4 years. So don't come to me and say I need to break even in the first 90 days. Because these guys are buying from Google and AdWords and Facebook and YouTube, the same as you are doing, and they can afford to pay 2.4. Even if your funnel is as good as their funnel, the problem that you're getting is that you don't have enough runway to wait for that customer to pay back. So sometimes it's a game of raising more money. And you need to be aware of that. Because if not, you will go and tweak the funnel and tweak the funnel and tweak the funnel. It gets to a point where a lead, it costs with it what it costs. When I was in Malaysia, we were doing app installs for a company. And we got them to be one of the biggest travel apps on Asia. And if not the biggest, and they had a number that was, I need to spend less than $1 per install. And we were competing with, Clash of Titans and the other one that Candy Crush and the airline apps and all the, no, only $1. If they allowed me to do $1.2 dollars per install, will probably be 10 times bigger. Why? They had that thing set in their head, and we tested and tested and tested, and we did all the campaigns and all the testing. It gets to a point where it costs what it costs, and you just need to scale that, and you need to play the numbers on the other side of the game, which is get more money from your investors. Make sense? So if that happens to you, just grow some balls, track better, assign direct, or go and raise more money. It's really important. And then study and copy funnels. And basically, we're in a knowledge industry. If you know more, I promise you, or at least this is my goal, that by you being here and getting smarter and knowing a lot more and learning about these things, it's very hard for your competitors to get even close if you are doing all the things we talk here. So some resources. I just want to, you can read them here, but basically we will go as we go through the sessions. And I think that's it for the first session. Thank you so much. I hope you liked it. And then, well, you can clap. Thank you. And I don't know what time is it, or if we have time. Okay.
Do you have questions you want to ask right now, or?
No?
The really big complicated funnel you showed, are you guys going to help us set that up?
Sorry?
The really big complicated funnel with all the marketing arrows, are you guys going to help us set that up?
Well, the idea is after the 10 weeks, everyone should have something like that. The idea of this first week, I'll give you the tools, whatever is the direction of this thing, and we will start setting some things up, but then we will have the distro team helping you do the remarketing and whatever, but you need to finish this program with that fucker set up. That's.
So the expectation is that takes 10 weeks, not like 2 weeks.
No, maybe if you do it in 2 weeks, it's a lot better. Then you keep running experiments on that funnel, and probably you guys, some of you guys have retargeting already in place, and whatever you are doing, we can do. We can build on top of whatever you have, but that should be the goal, because you will be competing with guys that have that. Make sense?
Yep.
And if you get it done in 1 week, it's amazing, or 2 weeks, it's okay. Then you spend more time tweaking each of these things.
What tools do you guys recommend besides Google Analytics and Expand? Are we going to go over that later in detail?
I recommend the tool you feel comfortable with, or the mentors feel comfortable with. Here in, I would say, in 500 startups in the distro team, I would say there's a little bit of bias towards Kissmetrics or Mixpanel, probably towards Mixpanel a little bit more, but you should speak with the distro team guys. I like Mixpanel, I like Kissmetrics. I cannot use Mixpanel or Kissmetrics because they are too expensive for the volume we driving only $47 ebooks or whatever. So I need to figure it out with Google Analytics and my backend software. But if you guys have a higher transaction item or have a recurring product or whatever, I think Mixpanel or Localytics is also a good thing. Just pick something that allows you to get the metrics you need. Anyone else? Okay, let's go for lunch. Thank you so much.